What's up, y'all? It's Charlie. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my homemade Salisbury steak with onion mushroom gravy, mashed potatoes, and my all-time favorite, green peas. Now, this meal is perfect if you're having a regular family dinner or if you're inviting your guests over. It serves about 4 people. That's 2 Salisbury steaks per person with a side of mashed potatoes and green peas. Now, the items in this recipe can be increased to serve more people, or it can be decreased by half to serve less people. And lastly, it is absolutely delicious. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, here's all what you'll need to make your homemade Salisbury steak with onion mushroom gravy, mashed potatoes, and green peas. Let's get started with our ingredients. You will need 2 pounds of lean ground beef, 2 large eggs, plain breadcrumbs, all-purpose flour, sugar, 2 russet potatoes, that's 2 pounds, 8 ounces of baby bella mushrooms, salted butter, whole milk, 13 to 16 ounces of organic frozen sweet green peas. And for our seasonings, you will need 2 yellow onions, garlic, and for our additional seasonings, you will need some salt, Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. Now, if you don't have this, you can use the Zatarain's Creole seasoning or the Slap Your Mama Cajun seasoning. You will also need some Chef Paul Prudhomme's Portrait Magic, Chef Paul Prudhomme's Vegetable Magic, onion powder, garlic powder, Worcester sauce, liquid smoke, and better than bouillon beef base. And there we have it.
Alright, let's get straight to it. Here we have 1 large yellow onion, and we're just going to chop that up. Here we have half of a yellow onion. This is the second yellow onion here. And we're going to chop the onion into thin slices. And from there you could just separate the onion into pieces like that. Okay? Here we have 3 cloves of garlic. We're going to chop the garlic up until it is minced. Now we're going to add our baby bella mushrooms into a strainer. And we're going to rinse the mushrooms off with cold water. Once done, take some napkins and just pat the mushrooms dry. Now, you don't have to follow this step if you don't want to, okay? If you don't want to rinse the mushrooms off or anything like that, you could just take a pastry brush and just dust all of the dirt off of the mushroom, okay? Alright, once done, you're going to chop your mushrooms into thin slices. Just like that, okay? Now, here we have 1 russet potato. We're going to peel the potato, and you're going to do the same thing with the second potato as well. Once you're done peeling the potatoes, we're going to take each potato and we're going to chop it into quarter pieces, okay? As you see here. Alright, here we have 1 1/2 quarts of water into a medium-sized bowl. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of vinegar and give that a quick stir. Now we're going to add our potato cubes into the vinegar and water solution. Not only does this help clean the potatoes, but it also prevents them from turning brown. Once done, you could set this on the side. Here we have 4 1/2 cups of hot water into a medium-sized bowl. Add 1 tablespoon of the better than bouillon beef base and give this a quick stir until that beef base has dissolved into the water. Once done, set this on the side. We've transferred our ground beef into a large bowl. Add 1 cup of chopped yellow onion, 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic, 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, a 1/2 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prudhomme's Portrait Magic, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, and 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. Using your hands, mix those seasonings into the ground beef. Here we have 2 large eggs into a small bowl. We're just going to take a whisk and mix that until combined. Now we're going to add the eggs into the ground beef mixture. And along with that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of our beef stock mixture, 1 tablespoon of liquid smoke, 1 tablespoon of Worcester sauce, and 1/3 cup of plain breadcrumbs. Now we're going to take our hands and we're going to mix all those ingredients together until combined. Alrighty, here we have 6 ounces of our ground beef mixture, best by weight, which we rolled into a ball. We're just going to take our hands and we're going to press that down into a 5 to 6 inch in diameter circle. Okay, once done, we're going to take a spatula and we're just going to go around the Salisbury steak patty. And once done, we're going to take our patties and we're going to transfer them onto an oiled surface. Okay. Now we're going to preheat our fire to medium-high heat. Here we have a large saucepan. We're going to let this get hot for about 2 minutes. Now we're going to take our Salisbury steak patties and we're going to fry them individually into the pan. Okay. We're going to let this fry for about 2 minutes on each side. Okay. Should be a nice golden brown on each side. Now, as you can see, the patty has shrunk. That is normal. Okay. And once done, you're going to turn your fire off. Now you're going to take your Salisbury steak patties and you're going to transfer them onto a cooling rack. Okay. Now you want to reserve your pan juices. You're going to let this cool until it is warm. Once done, you're going to add your pan juices into a mesh strainer with a medium-sized bowl underneath it, and those contents that's inside the strainer, you can discard that. Now we're going to make a roux with this in a little bit. Alright. Preheat your fire to medium-high heat. In a large saucepan, add 3 tablespoons of salted butter. Spread the butter along the bottom of your pan. Let the butter melt. Add your onion slices and 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic. Now we're going to take our spatula and we're just going to give this a quick stir. Let this saute for about 6 minutes. Now you're going to add your mushroom slices. Let's add a little seasoning while we're at it. We're going to sprinkle 1/8 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, a 1/2 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prudhomme's Vegetable Magic, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now we're going to take our spatula and give this a quick stir. We're going to let this saute for about 4 minutes. Alright, it's been about 4 minutes now, and our onions and mushrooms are nice and sauteed. Now we're going to turn our fire off. Now we're going to set this on the side, okay, until we're ready to use it. Now let's get started on our roux. Preheat your fire to medium-high heat. In a large saucepan, add 1/3 cup of your pan juices. Remember those juices that we have from my ground beef? Yeah, we're going to add that in there. And to that, we're going to add 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour. We're going to take a spatula and we're just going to stir this continuously for 6 minutes or until the mixture reaches a brown color like how you see here. Now don't mind the smoke, that is the normal part of making a roux, okay? Now this next step, I'm adding 1/4 cup of chopped yellow onion in there. You don't have to do that, okay? I'm just going to give that a quick stir. It's looking good so far. Now we're going to add our beef stock mixture. Just pour it all in there all at once. Now let's add some seasoning. We're going to sprinkle 1/8 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, a 1/2 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prudhomme's Poetry Magic, a 1/2 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prudhomme's Vegetable Magic, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Going to give this a quick stir. Now we're going to let this simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes. It's been about 10 to 12 minutes now. We're going to add our sauteed onions and mushrooms. Going to give that a quick stir. Now we're going to add our Salisbury steak patties. Now we're going to cover this. We're going to let this simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes. It's been about 10 to 12 minutes now, and our Salisbury steak with onion mushroom gravy is now done. Look at that. Now you're going to turn your fire off. Quick tips, your gravy will thicken as it cools, and the flavors will settle and increase overnight as well. Preheat your fire to medium-high heat. Now let's get started on mashed potatoes. Here we have 1 1/2 quarts of water into a medium-sized pot. Add 2 teaspoons of salt. Give this a quick stir. We're going to let this come to a simmer. Now while we're at it, we're going to add our potato cubes into a strainer. Now once your water is at a simmer, you're going to add your potato cubes in there. Give this a quick stir. Let this simmer for about 12 to 15 minutes. It's been about 12 to 15 minutes now, and our potato cubes are done. Turn your fire off. Add your potato cubes into a strainer. You're going to let this cool for about 10 minutes. Okay. We've transferred our potato cubes into a medium-sized bowl. We're going to take a back of a spoon or potato masher and mash the potatoes. Now once done, you should have between 3 to 3 1/2 cups of mashed potatoes. Preheat your fire to medium-high heat. In a medium-sized pot, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of salted butter. Spread the butter along the bottom of your pot. Let the butter melt. Add 2/3 cup of whole milk and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Give this a quick stir. Let this come to a simmer. Add your mashed potatoes. Now at this point, you're going to turn your fire off. And you're going to stir this until those potatoes are creamy and smooth. And there you go, homemade mashed potatoes. Make sure you taste your potatoes to see if it's at your desired taste. Preheat your fire to medium-high heat. Now let's get started on the green peas. In a medium-sized pot, add 3 tablespoons of salted butter. Spread the butter along the bottom of your pot. Let the butter melt. Add 1 1/4 cups of water, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prud'homme's Vegetable Magic, a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/3 cup of sugar, and 1/8 cup of chopped yellow onion. Give this a quick stir. Let this simmer for 3 minutes. Add your organic frozen green peas. Give this a quick stir. Let this simmer for 3 minutes. It's been about 3 minutes now, and our green peas are done. Turn your fire off. Let this cool for about 5 minutes, and from there, your meal is complete. Here is the final presentation. And there you have it, homemade Salisbury steak with onion mushroom gravy, mashed potatoes, and sweet peas, made from scratch by a New Orleans native. If you like my channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell button if you want to be notified of my videos. You can also check out this recipe, along with all of my other recipes, at www.charliethecookandrews.com. You can also find me on Facebook and on Instagram under the name Charlie the Cook Andrews. Stay tuned as Charlie's Taste Test is coming up next.
Now it's time to go ahead and take a bite. Man, look at that. Mm-hmm. Say, bro, when I tell y'all this is good, it's really, really good. I mean, the Salisbury steak is tender, juicy, well seasoned in that onion mushroom gravy. Oh man, really, really good. Then the mashed potatoes are creamy and buttery. Then you have the flavor of the peas, and this is what I like about the peas. The peas has like a sweet and saltiness to it, and then it has that onion to it. It's really, really good. Anyways, give the recipe a try. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and until next time, have a good one. Peace. Off the chain, boy.